So this has been a long time coming, but it's time for you and I to have a chat. Lake Eola is a park here in the center of Orlando. It's surrounded by living condominiums, restaurants, art, museums, all kinds of stuff. We're standing outside of the Walt Disney Amphitheater here at Lake Eola Park today to talk about me. Jen brought it to my attention the other day that not since the very first video that we ever did we really talk about us and what brought us to Florida, what brought us to Orlando. So today, if you'll come along with me, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me and what makes me tick. March of 2020, Jennifer and I moved to Orlando. This has been I won't say a lifelong dream because it wasn't really a lifelong dream. My love for Disney started later in life. I first came to Disney 1996, I believe. It was the 25th anniversary of the pink Pepto-Bismol cake castle. So I was 23, 24 years old back then. My family had always vacationed here to Florida, but we always vacationed up in the Panhandle. It was a little closer for us to get to the beach from there. My parents were big, sit on the beach kind of people. I really never was, and it wasn't until I paid for my own vacations that I realized, like, I'd always loved amusement parks. I didn't get to go to a ton when I was a kid. We didn't really have any that were really close, at least not any really good ones. We used to go to Six Flags Over Texas a handful of times as a kid, but I knew that I loved roller coasters and I knew that I loved themed entertainment, but I didn't have a whole lot of history with it. I don't know what was the cause of wanting to come to Disney that very first time, but I remember working with a travel agent because I didn't know anything about it and coming for that first trip. And after then, for the next 24 years of my life, it's all I ever thought about. One of the things you could do out here at Lake Eola is rent one of the swan boats. So here we go. I thought it might be fun to rent a swan boat and come out into the lake and continue our conversation. So we're to the point right now where I'd gone to my first trip to Disney, fell in love instantly. You know, it's weird. It's like if you ever had one of those experiences where you can recall a moment in time. You can feel the temperature on your face, you can see the sights, you can smell the smells, and you can remember it all. I remember standing in the middle of Tomorrowland and just feeling like this was like everything that I ever wanted. I can't, it's so hard to explain, especially because I'm a grown-up and I realize how absurd it all sounds. But I know there's people out there that are like me. I mean, there's tons that moved to Orlando for the very same reasons I did. One of the people that used to work with us was also a big Disney fan, and he decided years and years before I did to move to Florida, to take that leap. I always was very jealous, I always wanted to go with him, but there was always something holding me back. There was always a reason why I felt like I couldn't do it, and it took me a lot of years. Later in life, I met Jennifer. We got married. Jennifer, she had never been to Disney before, but of course, as in any relationship I ever had, if you didn't know my love for Disney, you found out pretty quickly what it was. I took everybody there because I wanted them to love it as much as I did. And really, I mean, I wanted to take other vacations, but mostly I just wanted to go to Disney. And going to Disney for me was like, you know, it was a military operation. It was scheduled, it was planned, there was no relaxation. Disney was, you were gonna walk 15 miles a day and you were gonna like it. When I met Jennifer, we vacationed here. It was actually in 2018. She'd never been to Disney World. I don't really think she had any desire to go to Disney World, but she came because I wanted to go. And I'm not sure that she instantly fell in love with it, but the attribute that Jennifer has that a lot of people don't possess is that she has a spirit of adventure, and she's willing to drop everything and try something new just for the experience of it. We both had really good jobs, but she knew that it was a lifelong dream for me to move to Orlando. She and I made an agreement that whomever had the opportunity to transfer with their job or have another job possibility in Orlando that made sense for us, that we would drop it all, the other would quit their job, and we would just go. So as luck would have it, Jennifer had a job opportunity come up, and she came home one day. I don't remember really very much about it, but I just remember her coming up to me and saying, so there's a job opening in Orlando where I could transfer. Do you want to go? I think I blew it off for a second, and then I really thought about it. It was the closest to reality that dream had ever been. I think I spent about a day thinking about it, and because again, my friends were in our town, my whole life, my family, and could I sacrifice all of those things for this pipe dream of moving to Orlando to live near an amusement park? And was that realistic? I still struggle with that decision. I still wonder if it was the right choice. I love our life here, but I loved our life there too. And so I had to give up some things to make this a reality. And I do wonder some days if I chose correctly. So I wanted to stop by the Pulse Memorial. I've wanted to come by here since I've lived here. It seemed appropriate as a resident of Orlando to come and pay your respects to something that was so tragic. But it also sort of plays into the story that I'm trying to tell you today. Being here is obviously very somber. It's very emotional to be in a spot where so many people lost their lives. I don't mean to downplay it at all. It reminds me of how short life is, and I think that was the thought when Jennifer approached me about the moving. I thought, this is it. This is the only chance I'm going to have. And again, there's no logic you can put to it. I can't explain it in a rational way. I just knew it felt right. I threw caution to the wind, and thank God I had a partner that was so willing to go on this journey with me, especially because she didn't have the years of longing, feeling like there was something that you were missing in life, like you just needed more adventure, you needed more something. So from the day that she asked me to the day that we moved was short. It was within a month we flew to Orlando to find a place to live. She met her new employer. I put in my notice at my employer. For years loved Disney, and I never could come enough. It was never enough. However many times I could come, it was never enough. I could usually come once a year, sometimes twice a year, but sometimes it was 3 years or 4 years between trips, and it was never enough. And I watched and consumed whatever I could. The Disney YouTuber Tim Tracker was my go-to for connection to the Disney parks. And I credit Tim with being the reason that I'm doing what I do now. I'm 3 years into being a vlogger here, doing theme parks. And it's all due to Tim. Not because I wanted to do what Tim did, but it was the way that watching those videos made me feel, and the connection that they brought me to the park. So Jen and I moved to Orlando. It just so happened it was one of the weirdest times in history to make such a leap. We sold our house. It was sold within less than a month. So we were committed, and it was too late to change our mind. We moved in March of 2020. So once we moved here, Jen was here like 2 weeks. She was furloughed, and then she was laid off. And I could not find a job for the life of me. So here we are, moved to a new town. We don't know anybody. Well, we know one person, but we're in lockdown. We're in quarantine. Jen has been furloughed. I quit my career to move here, and we have the pandemic. It was the weirdest, most surreal time of my life. We stayed at home, we went to the grocery store, we went to the farmer's market. We enjoyed our time together. It was unusual because we weren't used to spending that much time together. That was a bit of a learning curve on our part. After that, the park started to reopen, and we were lucky because we got here the week before Disney stopped selling Florida resident annual pass, and we were also able to buy Universal passes and SeaWorld pass. So once the parks reopened, we had passes to all the parks. And so we just started going every single day. We'll continue the story in a minute. I came over here to Epcot to finish out the day and see the fireworks. One of the things that is so great about being a Florida resident is being able to come over here just on a whim and have dinner or do whatever. I stopped over at Citrus Blossom and got my favorite item from this year's Flower and Garden Festival. It was the tempura shrimp. This is a prime example of why I wanted to move here, is I wanted to be able to just come get a snack when I wanted it. I know that's ridiculous because you can get good food no matter where you are, but if you've ever been to Disney, you know Disney. It just hits a little different. It tastes a little better. It's way more expensive, but it's the culmination of a dream. This shrimp. So, what was it like during that time period when we just got to go to the parks every day? I mean, honestly, to call it anything else other than amazing would be downplaying it. Jen and I were cautious about coronavirus, but we were also not going to allow ourselves to be afraid to go out into public. So we came to the park every day, and during the course of doing that and being unemployed and needing something to challenge myself with is where this came from. And honestly, I didn't really want to do it, but I felt compelled to for some reason. And so I don't know how going forward I could do anything else. So there's a lot more to tell. I mean, all of us are complicated beings, but I just wanted you to know a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing and what brought me to Orlando, because I'm a 50-year-old vlogger in Disney. It's just not exactly the norm. Everybody else is a little younger than I am, or a lot younger than I am in most cases.
Epcot is, and will always be in a state of becoming. It will never cease to be a living blueprint of the future.
I hope that if you get any information or any entertainment out of these videos, that you will subscribe and share it with a friend to help me grow, because nothing would mean more to me personally than to grow this channel and eventually be able to retire and do this full time. That's the dream. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I'm gonna keep doing it. If you have any questions for me or for Jennifer, or if we can help you in any way, please let us know. Thank you so much for coming along with me today. I know it was a little different than normal. If never lost, then never found. So go get lost.